Hey everybody, it's TheDollBoy, and today I'm so excited to show you how I created the TheDollBoy doll. A lot of you have asked me if I can show how I look or do a face reveal, so I decided to go ahead and show you how I look the TheDollBoy style. To create this doll version of myself, I'm using my Alistair Wonderland doll from Ever After High. To transform him into a doll version of myself, I'm gonna start by changing his hair. Using this saran hair from dollyhair.com in the colors Caffe Latte Brown, Milk Chocolate Brown, Light Summer Sand, and Golden Brown to create this color right in between a very dark blonde and a light brown, which is pretty similar to my own hair color. He is gonna get some rooted hair on the top, and I'll be flocking the sides and the back of his head to resemble very short or shaved hair, since that is the haircut I've been wearing for a couple years now. To start the process, you want to soften the plastic of the doll's head by dipping it in boiling water. Sorry TheDollBoy doll, but this makes it a lot easier to remove the head from the body. Then I cut off all his hair as short as possible and remove all the original hair. For this, I take my tweezers and start by scraping the inside of the head. This pulls the hair to the inside of the head to get that very nice and clean bald head. Then you do want to get rid of the leftover hair and glue that you collected inside that head. So once again, I'm taking my tweezers and simply going inside of the head and pull out all of the glue and hair leftovers out of there. And as you can see, there was a lot of junk in there. And to match the color of the scalp to the new hair he's getting, I'm mixing some paint with Mod Podge to paint the head. The reason I'm adding in that Mod Podge is because that makes it a bit more flexible, which really makes a difference when you're rerooting. I mix brown paint with the Mod Podge first, because that already makes it a lot lighter, and then I add white paint to lighten the color even more, to get as close to the hair color as I possibly can. At this point, I don't worry about getting a perfect match at all, but painting the scalp is a very nice way to hide any bald spots that might happen when you're styling your doll's hair. When all the paint is dry, you can start the actual reroot. For this step, I already laid out a bunch of strands ready to go, and I'm using my DIY reroot tool that I made from a cork and a cut-off needle. I'll link a video in the iCards where I show you how I made this tool more in depth. To reroot this doll's hair, I simply wrap a small strand of hair around my finger and pick it up with my reroot tool so that it's on the cut part of the needle, and then I push it into the doll's head. Now I simply repeat that on the hairline, making sure I'm only doing the front part, because I'm not gonna be rooting the sides and back at all. To make sure I have a very neat transition from the rooted hair to the shaved sides that are gonna be flocked, I'm creating my own part line by making my own holes in the head and rooting the hair very close to each other. This is a bit tricky because you want the strands to be close enough to where you won't see any gaps, but you also don't want to root this too close because that will give you the risk of the plastic on the scalp splitting or breaking. These Ever After hi-hats are pretty soft, But if you're working with a doll that has a head made out of a harder plastic, it might help to soften the plastic by dipping it into boiling water. After successfully rooting that part line, I went all the way around and filled up the inside of the section I wanted to root as well. So then, I take my Fabri-Tac glue and add some glue to the inside of the head to make sure all the hair plugs will stay secured. Then I take a Q-tip to spread out the glue evenly. I let that dry overnight, and then I take his body that I already dressed in his new outfit and attach the head back to the body. The reason I'm doing this right now, before completely finishing his hair, is because I want to be able to put some pressure on those sides. So I don't want to put the head on the body after flocking those sides to avoid damaging those. Like this, I honestly already really like this doll, but I do still need to add the flocking to the sides and back, repaint his eyes, and cut and style the hair a lot shorter to match my own hair. But for now, I'm just gonna tie it out of the way while I'm gonna be working on the sides. To create the illusion of the doll having shaved sides, I'm gonna do a technique called flocking. I do already have a video about this on my channel, but this was the very first time I'm actually making my own flocking powder, because I really wanted the color of the sides to match the color on the top very well. To do this, I simply took a strand of the reroot hair and start cutting it in the tiniest pieces you can create. You really want to take your time with this, because if you keep the pieces of hair too big, it might come out bulkier than you want. Then I take the flocking powder that I made and pour it into a small cup to make it easier to work with. Then you want to brush a layer of Mod Podge on the area you want to flock, trying to be really neat on the edges and on the hairline. I also want to alter the hairline a little bit by giving the doll a bit more of that sideburn, so I just add some glue to those areas using a really small stick. And then you also really want to make sure to cover up the holes that were previously rooted with the hairline, to make sure those won't be visible anymore. While the glue is still wet, I carefully start dropping the flocking powder on the head. To spread this out nice and evenly, I tap the head every now and then, so the flocking powder gets a chance to move around, really grabbing to that glue. A very nice tip for this process is to do your flocking right above a bowl, so you can reuse the flocking powder that did not stick to the glue. After doing that one layer, it wasn't as covered as I wanted it to be, so I went in again with the flocking powder. As you can see, this time I really packed it on there, and then tapped it very well, so all the pieces of hair that were not touching the glue are falling back in the bowl. I go ahead and take a clean paintbrush to really clean up those edges for a super neat looking hairline, to give me this result for round 1. As you can see, the glue is still wet here, but that will dry clear. Then for the other side, I do the exact same thing, being really careful not to smudge the other side. So I also add glue to this side, extend the sideburn, trying to match it up with the other side as well as I can, and then covering the glued areas with the powder. Tapping the head to let it move around, spread out, and stick to the glue. After doing that for both sides and the back, and going in for a second layer after that first layer was completely dry, I got this result that I really liked. With the sides tackled it's now time to start styling the rooted hair at the top. For this, I carefully boil wash the hair, trying to keep the sides as dry as possible, because the glue still needed to fully harden. With this boil wash, I get the hair to lay the way I want it to go, which is mostly to the front and to one side. Then for the actual hair cut, I'm gonna cut it the same way my own hair is cut. Just keeping it a little longer at first, because I was really scared to make everything too short to the point where it wouldn't lay down the way I wanted anymore. I also make the back a lot shorter than the front to have that match my own hair as well. After getting that basic haircut, I did leave it a lot longer than my actual hair is, but I still wanted to add some wave to the front, which also will make it look a little shorter. For the waves, I wrap some of the front hair around straws away from the face and dip that in some hot water. Then to finish up this doll, I wanted to match his eyes to my own eye color, which is a green-gray mixture. So I take some green, black and white acrylic paint and start mixing that until the color looks similar to my actual eyes. Since I am not the best repainter, I am simply going to fill in the existing eyes with the new color, so I have a really nice guide, and if anything goes wrong, I can just wipe it off and still have the original face paint. For this step, I'm using a small toothpick to apply the paint. Then for the outline of the iris, I mix a darker shade of green. This matches both the style this doll's eyes were originally in and my eyes in real life as well. And then, after giving him a miniature camera, the TheDollBoy doll is done. I really hope you like him and the way I gave you all an insight of how I look in real life. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below to support my channel. Also subscribe to my channel for more doll videos and follow me on Instagram as well for more pictures of my doll collection @TheDollBoy. See you next time!